maybe a few remarks that I would like to give to each speaker. So to Director Dane, I think indeed there is a theory of an economist called Jeremy Rifkin. And it's called that we need to go to the third industrial revolution. And it's based on energy efficiency, renewable energy, actually not zero energy, but energy positive buildings, so buildings that generate electricity, energy storage, and a smart grid. And there are two components of the third industrial revolution that we need. One is indeed a breakthrough in communication, and the other one is a breakthrough in energy technology. So I think also there, the whole optical fiber infrastructure that you have created is an important component, which actually is going to help the energy efficiency and renewable energy agenda being implemented. And of course also all the communication where the lighting can take into account the traffic density, people moving around, but also that it can be dimmed when needed, or your washing machine being started a few hours later. So that's an important component, so that's good work. Then to Mr. Yen, I think indeed the examples given of the Taiwan Pavilion, I think it shows also that you need proof points to make advancements. So I think I really compliment you with this proof point being created at the Shanghai World Expo, because then you see indeed how people respond, and they start asking, can we also have that? Can you help us? That is part of the competition. And then Professor Yu, on the light pollution, indeed, you can't just save energy by going to more efficient technologies, and in our case lighting, but also by dimming, but also by preventing that you spread light where you don't want to have it. And you can imagine if there are certain lighting fixtures that like plastic balls, very much used in street lighting, half of the light goes into the sky, so you don't need it. If you save that light, you can of course reduce the power even further than just only allowed by the technology. So we are a member of the International Dark Sky Association, because we believe that the best energy saved is energy not used, and then indeed you see that you don't have to switch off the light to save energy, because when you switch it off, then it becomes more difficult to move around and to enjoy life. Then on biodiversity, I think that's a very important remark. As I commented, we are the only species that is out of balance with nature. Just a few brief remarks. Did you know that the amount of biological material of ants, so those little creepy animals, ants, is more than of all the 6.5 billion people that live in the world? Yet we see that this amount of biological mass is living in complete harmony with nature, and we need more than one planet to sustain our lifestyle. So also there are many lessons that we can learn, and certainly there is a part of science that I imagine that you know more about, so Professor Yu, that's called biomimicry. So where we can actually learn from nature how they use natural ventilation, how they use many kinds of things to come to solutions that don't require the amount of resources that we use. On lighting, two examples. I think, if I'm correct, we did a project in Singapore, in the harbor around Singapore, where we reduced light pollution, because you could also see that with all the light pollution, the turtles, they get confused. So when the turtles they want to lay eggs, they go to the wrong place. But also the small turtles, they don't go into the sea, guided by the light of the moon, but they get confused, and who knows that any other birds, they eat them. So for turtles I know of this project. But there's another project that we did, it has to do with birds. So in Europe there's a lot of bird migration in the winter and in the summer. And over the North Sea, from Scandinavia over to mainland Europe and to Africa, yearly, because there are many oil platforms, fortunately not falling apart, but then many oil platforms, and every year the birds they see the light, so they think yes, land has land in sight, and they go down to the oil platforms. But then because they have traveled already quite a while, they are tired and there's no food. So 6 million birds die every year. 6 million because of all the light pollution from the oil platforms. And we have actually converted the light on some of them to green light. So not only energy efficient, but also the color green, because the eyes of the birds are less sensitive for green light. They don't see it as good as we do. So then, if all oil platforms introduce that in the North Sea, then the number of birds that will perish will reduce by 5 million. So I can imagine that there are other places in the world where we can do this. And just one last example, it has to do with chicken. So we use for a large part with chicken, and I think there's many more things possible in animal rearing. We use fluorescent lighting with 50 hertz. Well, we all know that chicken can be very restless, and they pick on each other, and they damage, and okay, that's also a loss of production. But that is because we were not aware that they go completely crazy because of 50 hertz. So also for chicken, then you see if you investigate their well-being, and you need to move to high frequency electronic lighting, and then at the same time you save energy, but also for those chicken will be much more easy instead of going crazy all the time. So I imagine there are many more examples where we can merge the benefits for the wildlife, but also the animal rearing that we do have for food production, with better choices in lighting, and at the same time reduce the environmental impact of what we do.
谢谢 Harry， 看来这照明的学问再听下去会越来越深哦。包括说这个怎么样跟自然学习哈，以及也对其他生物也都有影响哈。那刚刚他在演讲的时候，我们台北市的副秘书长就说，那 LED 灯有时候照在行人看起来很像那个鬼啊，如果又穿白衣服的话，就是光线的和灯光的颜色也是很重要。我还有一个问题问一下 Harry，I know this is your first trip in Taipei, right? But your first time in Taipei. Yeah, I will ask in English, so easier for you. Is that your first time in Taipei? I know you just arrived yesterday, but you have traveled around like many Asian countries and to many cities, Singapore, Korea, and China. And you have also observed that a lot of cities in Asia, they are very ambitious to pursue to become a green city or greener cities. So my question may be a little bit broad, but you can answer whatever you like. Is that what kind of recommendations you will have to Taipei City? I know you may not seen a lot, but from your understanding or from your knowledge, I think you can give some advice to the city officials here.
There are fortunately more examples than that I know of, all the detail, but one city that I've been to several times, also a long time ago, was the city of Baltimore, where you could see they had an old harbor front, and it was industrial and it was completely run down, and people were afraid to go there. It was criminal, dangerous, but it was completely redeveloped. But also the lighting played an important part there, and I think when you go there, I was there 2 years ago with my family, it's an extremely nice place to be. So what it means is that a city that looks like, okay, in a way, that the citizens are thinking should we leave the city and go even more to the suburbs, which is even more energy intensive because of all the commuting. This is one example, but there are more of redeveloping the city center and giving it a new functionality. There's an aquarium, restaurants, museum. It's really beautiful. One example of a city that has already for quite a number of years integrated the livable city philosophy with lighting is Lyon. So Lyon in France, to my knowledge, is the best example of a city where this thinking, beneficial thinking and making the city an icon has been implemented as Lyon in France. And I think if any one of you would like to go there, you can always also talk to my colleagues, to Julia Hung, to Edward Poe, because also close to Lyon, we have our outdoor lighting facilities. And there's also a small lighting outdoor center where you can play and program the lighting and see what it actually changes. But then we see also London, Paris, many other cities that are doing the same. And perhaps we can also share after the event some of the things that are happening in the City People Lighting Contest, because then you can see how cities are actually standing out and positioning themselves and giving some inspiration also for Taipei.